This episode of Nuff Said is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. To get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
Hello, heroes, and welcome once again to Nuff Shed. Nuff Shed? Nuff She Shed. She Shed Seashells by the Seashores. Welcome once again to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the Nuff Said podcast for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and everything Marvel. Tonight's episode, Season 6, Episode 4, Code Yellow. YOLO, Yo-Yo, and Killer take things public. Parasitic aliens threaten the human race, and someone really needs Boba. Our director of this episode is Mark Kolpak. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, of course, get our Marvel credits. Of course, Joss Whedon, Jed Whedon, and who's this lady? Marissa Tankarian? Remember that name later. Get our created by credits. Nora Zuckerman, Lilia Zuckerman. Get our written by James C. Oliver and Sharilla Oliver. Our executive story editors, and hardest working man in show business, our regular story editor, so that James and Sharilla can boss someone around, George Kitts. Okay, this is an episode. As I mentioned, our good friend Marissa Tankarian plays the delightful Sequoia in this, which is, and for what it's worth, she is so awesome in this.
Right, and it's such sort of a call out of millennial culture, and it's so perfectly done too. She's so annoying at times, but still endearing in other ways.
She is very endearing. I have to say this much. Spoilers here. We do find out that there is an agent named Trevor Khan.
Trevor Khan.
Yeah, by Shanu Bala. Not for nothing, Kamala Khan is the current Ms. Marvel in the comic books. Second they said Agent Khan, I'm thinking, oh, he's got to be her cousin.
Interesting. So obviously in the opening scene of this episode, he's letting him win, right?
Well, in the beginning of this episode, it's in the frame.
Right. So they're in the game, but obviously he's a better tactician and strategic, soldier than Deke is. So obviously he's just playing the part and pretending to not be as good at it to build that image. That's what I'd like to think.
Khan is. Oh yeah. Well, clearly Khan is always.
Right.
Is.
So in the game, he gets surprised by the soldier behind him and goes down. I was like, no way Khan would let that happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a reference back to when Natalie Romanoff, the Black Widow, gets the job as the executive assistant to Tony Stark in Iron Man 2.
Indeed.
It's clearly, I'm gonna, knowing how to roll with the punch, that's a very important trick, something you gotta learn.
I thought it was a cool touch.
Well, it's a cool touch, and here's what I gotta say, there's a lot of cool touches throughout this, in the way they handle the character of Deke. Because Deke very easily falls into the jockster the mighty kind of trope of the guy who thinks he's a BA who's not.
Right.
But it's important to remember that that Deke comes into the original series kind of as a Star-Lord. In fact, very much was meant to be a Star-Lord patch. When we first see him in the last season, he's got like the Star-Lord's helmet that sort of like, folds back and comes over his face, and that's how he breathes.
Right.
That's what Deke has. So he has these. When he comes into the first season, he is this guy who is kind of very much meant to be like Star-Lord. He's kind of a guy who has survived hard scrabble for a long time, but he isn't necessarily like a super ninja either, And they balance those roles very nicely in this.
Right. He says himself.
As we're watching.
Sorry. Go.
Yeah. Well, as we're watching, and we see this the fantasy framework, which not for nothing gets a little creepy in its own way, because it's like he does have him and Chloe have that moment, And it's like, dude, that's an actual person. And I know it's a robot here, but maybe you shouldn't be doing that with someone you know. You know what I
I
mean?
don't know, but isn't that what the whole video game environment is for?
Well, yeah.
So it's not
Except when
helping
it's a real
nobody's
person you
placating
know.
your whatever without actually having the repercussions for you or for the other person. It's a perfectly safe way to indulge.
Yeah.
I'd say. It was
I mean,
very,
I'm
very
not.
like shades of Black Mirror, Like I'm
Yes.
surprised they didn't have like that little dot thing on the side of the person's temple that actually brings them into the game. I actually wish they would have given us more insight into how one actually enters their virtual world, because later on
Oh,
when that becomes an integral part of the plot, I would like to have known how that happened.
yeah. Sorry about that. That was a couple episodes ago. That was the whole arc of the season prior to this.
Oh, I
The
gotcha. So if you could
yes.
take a moment, just tell me how one enters the game.
Magic.
Oh, okay, gotcha. It's just a
Yeah, I
MacGuffin.
mean, I was watching this. I was watching a game theory today about some some anime novel series
Mm-hmm.
about, and I can't remember what it was called, but it's basically the idea is they create this multiplayer online thing and it uses microwaves to enter your brain and give you real life experiences.
Oh,
And like
interesting.
10,000 people volunteer to join it, but then they find out that after they joined, that if you die in the game, you die in real life, and it,
Nice.
yes, yes, but it's one where if you die in the game, you die in real life.
All right, that's cool.
Yeah. So anyway, that's not. I mean, that's not quite how the framework works, but it works along those lines. It's like if you're in the chair, if you're in the place where you can be influenced by it, then it goes directly into your brain.
Yeah, it's like that's what it was. It was like some sort of a field of some sort. And as soon as you enter this field that's generated by something, you're immediately allowed to drop and go into the world.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
and that's how they get Jocko. They put him in the world, and he gets to have a moment with Chloe, and not for nothing, who wouldn't want that moment with Chloe? So fair enough. He puts him in this world. And I do love that scene where he goes to Mac at that moment and says, 2% of the company. 2% of the company. You never mentioned this to.
Right. And as he mentions earlier, he goes, his skill is surviving, running away and surviving. In any moment,
Well,
he'll make a deal to get out of it,
yeah. Well, you know what? For what it's worth, sometimes you can't always run away, and he can be a BA when he needs to.
Yeah.
Now, just to give you an understanding, he is Fitz and Simmons' grandson. Because
Fitz.
he is a time travel. He's a time traveler. He's from the future,
Gotcha.
but he's from an alternate future, which is probably why Sarge
Mistakes him
focuses in on him.
or whatever one of
Yeah,
the people that he thinks doesn't belong there.
exactly. Sarge is thinking he's one of the Bat things,
Right.
or little space vampires.
Okay, so one thing, it looked clear as day to me that it was a bat. Why do these people that are supposedly really observant calling it a bird constantly? Like they were closer to that thing than I was.
Well, probably because if you want to be honest about it, it is probably because the original CGI was of a bird.
Mm.
It was written as a bird. Then the designer of the physical thing made it look much more like a bat.
Interesting. I got you. That makes sense.
And so then they're working with this idea because they may not actually have it in front of them when they're saying those lines.
Sure, no.
And so they're saying these lines based on the idea that it's a bird.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
But the designer actually made it look more bat-like.
Right. It's much cooler.
Because the designer wanted it to be a space vampire, obviously.
Yeah. If I had to choose between them pronouncing the right word for whatever came out of that guy and have it be a bird or a bat, I'd take the bat.
But again, like I said, when we see earlier what it is designed in CG. So when it's in CGI, it looks more like a bird.
Interesting.
When it's a when it's a latex model, the guy designed it more like to look like a bat. So there's a clear disconnect between our virtual rendering team and the physical prop department. So that explains that. Not for nothing, the crystals coming out of people. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that was insane, but also very cool. I don't know who these little monsters are, but I am really intrigued by them.
Yeah.
And they're definitely something different than anything I've seen before, which is one of the things I love from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is that they exist in this universe I'm familiar with, but only vaguely familiar with. So when new things come in, I'm like, oh, wow, that's interesting. That's a new take on this idea. And I'm a little disappointed that they fridged May's boyfriend so fast. Just killing him off so she can have, I'm sorry, not May, Yo-Yo's boyfriend so fast. Agent Keller, Lucas Bryant, we hardly knew ye.
He was a stand-up guy.
You know what? They did the same thing in Cloak and Dagger recently, where they kind of introduced a love interest and then pretty much almost immediately killed him off.
In Stranger Things, they waited till the end of the season to kill, what was that chubby guy?
Oh, the guy from Goonies, yeah. It's
that was a tough one.
What's his name? It was Sean Astin.
Sean Astin, that's right.
Sean Astin, yeah, John Astin's son, with Patty Duke. Yes. Yeah, they killed when they killed Sean Astin, that was hard for me.
Yeah.
Because they let him go the whole season.
I know. And then right at the
end. In some ways, it's better when if you're gonna fridge him early, so that it's like, okay, it's just abandoned, it's off. We knew we had to kill the love interest.
Yeah, but at the same time, they sort of it was kind of interesting, and they made you feel guilty for it too, because you wanted him gone too, because he was a complication in the path of Winona Ryder getting with Hopper, which is what you really want. That's the Scully and Mulder thing,
I don't know if that's what I really want, but that's what.
No, I know, but you don't really. But at the same time, you wish he would, not be there. So I don't know. But,
I understand what you're saying, and I'm not going to deny it. It's like, yes, Hopper and Winona Ryder, they make a cute couple.
I know. But
at the same time, I'm just always thinking about all the stuff that Winona Ryder's character's already gone through.
Right.
And Hopper just does not seem like a stable influence.
Right. Well, neither does she. And sometimes, you sit there and wonder, is either of them good for the other?
Yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, for what it's worth, part of me is like, you know what? Here's what I'll say. As a card carrying Captain Sable myself. There comes a point where you're like, man, don't let her get with that guy. Have her be with the stable fat guy. Wouldn't that be nice for everybody? And it's like, no.
Right.
Winona Ryder doesn't date the stable fat guy. He's going to sacrifice himself nobly.
Right. Even Pretty in Pink, they didn't kill Ducky,
Yeah, well, only because there were only so many minutes.
Right.
Anyway, getting back to the story. So to give you a little backstory on this, just so you know, Mozz, what Deke is doing in this is he is basically recreating all of his next century technology and essentially becoming this tech billionaire, or at least trying to be. He certainly has enough capital coming in. And again, this goes to that idea that half the population is gone.
Right.
So there's a lot of free capital that people can invest right now, and far fewer people to invest in.
And probably very few people that have a handle on the narrative thread of science and scientific progress so far. So
exactly. And this guy has advanced versions.
Right. He's got all that information as readily available to him as the ABCs,
Exactly. He's from a time where all this stuff was normal.
Yeah.
And him running into Coulson makes for a great thing here. But one of my favorite thing in this, there are two great moments in this. One is when he doesn't want the item on his wrist. And the reason for that is that basically in his future, the Kree put a band on everyone's wrist, and that's how you received credits. So there was a physical thing that was bound to you that actually went into your arm, and that identified you and tracked your worth in as a worker in the system. And he says, nothing goes on this hand again. I loved that, and I loved when he's like, and it's because they had these mushroom puffs that that everyone subsisted on in the future. You had these little puffs of these super nutrient rich mushrooms that were tasted awful, but that was what kept you alive.
Right.
And he's there and he's trying to recreate that, and he says, so close, but it still has that taste I can never quite forget. It's like, I want that thing to sell, but I don't want it to taste like it did back then. He wants Soylent Green, but he wants Soylent chocolate. He wants the Soylent, but he wants something that's going to taste nice for people. So yeah, there are a lot of great little hints back at that previous episode in this. When Sarge comes in, and and again, you get this great moment where Deke, for what it's worth, gets to show he's a survivor, and he's a survivor because he is not a jockster. He is a guy who can throw down when he absolutely needs to. And he stabs Coulson's hand and says, "It's a real hand. You're not Coulson."
Also, like, he throws that little, "How's Doug doing?" Oh,
yeah.
Doug's Doug. And I was like, that's great.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. He quickly realizes when he mentions his grandparents, who aren't old. He says, "Oh, they're getting up there, but they're holding up."
Yeah.
And it's like, "Oh, you don't know who I am, do you, Sarge? You don't know what's really going on." And that's when he breaks it down. And then he does do the stab in the hand. Because for what it's worth, it was one of these interesting things. Because it's a thing where if he stabs him in the hand and he has a real hand, then he absolutely knows it's not Coulson. If he stabs him in the hand and it is a robot hand, it's not going to hurt Coulson. It's just going to annoy him.
Right.
So it's brilliant in the way he plays it. He runs out. They evacuate the building very quickly, and the adventure ensues. We find out that Khan is in fact basically his S.H.I.E.L.D. babysitter. But also prior to that, again, we see Deke using the communicator to distract Sarge, to make him think that he's where he's not. And so it really shows that Deke does have these skills.
Yeah.
As much as he is kind of a goofball, he can actually throw down when he absolutely needs to. He is the secret BA, as they say.
Right. He doesn't have the skill set that most spies or soldiers would, but he has come to terms with his gifts and learned to use them to their best ability.
And he does so wonderfully. And I do love how that plays out. I do got to say, if we haven't mentioned it, Marissa Tancherian, who is our executive producer along with Jed Whedon, is really awesome in this as her little character. I love the end credit scene where she goes and she runs off with Trevor Khan.
That was great.
It was appropriate for her character,
Right. And it seemed like Khan was taking some extra pleasure in knowing that he took his girl. Once the cover was blown, all those times of pretending to be not as good as him or subservient to him, now he flexes on him and through his girl's Instagram. I thought that was funny.
Yes.
And the other thing that I thought was great, at the end they showed why she really needed to get the boba, and sort of to point the finger at some of the fallout from social media and how it attacks people's minds. Like, she came in there and she was that annoying person insisting on getting boba, refusing to see what was going on or how important work that needed to be done. To her, she had already said to her Instagram followers that she was going to go have boba. So if she didn't do it, she would be embarrassed in front of, what she considers her circle, whatever. So it was kind of an interesting point they made there too.
Well, that is brilliant, Mozz. You know what? I completely missed that because I'm an old man and not hype into the sections that you and the kids are nowadays. As you know, Mozz is my skinny, rich, younger friend. So he is well aware of what you hip kids are doing. So I appreciate his insight into these things. But yeah, no, that makes perfect sense as you laid out to me that, she had hashtag what she was doing. She had said, this is what we're doing for her followers.
Yeah.
And then she had to get it done because this was her job. Not for nothing, she is an influencer.
Right.
And that's how she makes her bones, It's not everyone that gets to create an app. Some of us just have to be beautiful and interesting and have a story that you want to follow. And now you're screwing me up, .com billionaire. It's kind of annoying,
Well, no, but I mean, like, what you have to sacrifice to be able to do it, it's like, it's not just a job. It is like, it steals part of your personality from you. You don't get to be your real self. You're this annoying version of yourself because you're beholden to your followers, to your job, blah, blah, blah. So I love that they gave us a bit of that conversation piece, or asked us to question that.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant, and I love that. That gives me a deeper understanding of that character in that episode. I just loved her because I thought she was a funny comedy relief character, but much like Deke Shaw, it's like there's more to her than that.
Yeah.
There is a level of her that is more than just the comedy we get from watching someone be in the world. It's that, she has a life and an occupation that she's trying to work through. So that's brilliant. At the end of this, we do see Melinda get captured by Sarge and her team and his team. And
she's the one with the superpower, like the force from her hands, right?
No.
Oh, she's not
No, that's Chloe. She's out in space.
Gotcha. I was like, oh man, she's just pretending to be a captive just to get to where he is, or maybe she's still playing that card. I don't know.
No, Ming Na Wen is Ming Na Wen, Ming Na Wen. I always forget that. No, Ming Na Wen. Melinda May. Ming Na Wen. She played Mulan in the original Disney cartoon. For those who are interested, yes, but she is just a human level complete BA. She's like Natasha Romanoff. She's
gotcha.
Just super spy extraordinaire, and she can kick anyone's butt if you give her the opportunity.
Yeah, in her facial expressions, I sensed a bit of like contentment, satisfaction that shouldn't be there if someone had actually been kidnapped without a backup plan.
Yeah, I mean she's really good in that, and in fact, I remember watching on Twitter afterwards and people saying, yeah, May's got that you don't understand your life in here with me.
Right.
Kind of look in her eyes,
Indeed. Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. And I like that. And I like that Coulson does know there's more to it. Here's what I like about Sarge's character is even though he isn't Coulson, he clearly has a deeper understanding of the universe as he sees it. And he knows, basically, especially after dealing with Deke, he knows Deke's not what he's after. He's after the space vampires.
Right.
And Deke, although Deke comes up as an anomaly, he's not a space vampire. And so that's what we're looking at here. And that's, these space vampires are a thing that we're going to have to be concerned about, and we're going to have to track down and deal with and see where it goes from there. Oh, any final thoughts on tonight's episode, Mozz?
No, I think we got everything. This was a fun one. I think the story that's worth going into is Sarge stabbing the guy with the bat and like what that really means. So like, did he bring those? Because at first I thought he was bringing chaos to the world, and when they showed that clip of him from the old world saying, let's get out of here, I kept thinking, did he cause this and is he going to do this somewhere else? But now he gets here, he killed that guy. So he's obviously trying to stop them from ruining another world, right?
Yeah, and what's interesting about it is that, like a vampire, that knife he has to stab them with, he stabs them in just the right place, in just the right way, that stops them.
Right, but
and when
like,
he takes
it out, why did
out,
he kill the thing, though?
maybe you can't.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Although, for what it's worth, leaving it there with the thing in it, because obviously anyone that's going to autopsy the body is going to immediately take that thing out. So,
Right,
honestly, it was kind of foolish of him to leave it like that. Yeah. But maybe he kind of feels this is inevitable, and maybe... I have no idea what his thought process is. But we see that when he stabs him and then the crystals come out, it's like that's the last action. The creature's trying to get the crystals to come out to open these portals to let his brethren in, and he can't. But when they pull it out and it infects Keller, and then when Keller dies, he lets the whole crystals fly, and suddenly you have this, harmonic convergence that's going to open up this doorway and let the monsters in. And that I thought is very interesting. Something to think about. We'll see.
Yeah.
And we could be all wrong by the next week when the next episode airs. In the meantime, Mozz, if people would like to talk to you about this episode and how it works and how they think it should work, how can they reach you?
Well, they can find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzoor, or email me at mozzmanzoor@gmail.com. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And of course, you can always write to me in the old-fashioned email ways, or as you should want to, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. Of course, follow me on the Twitters as I live tweet Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I did last night, or this week, and Cloak and Dagger, which I won't do till it comes back again, but I did the last time, @Charlie Hesser. That's CharlieHesser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
Ping!
For quality. Because this has been Nuff Said, Seth Gade Media's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. podcast. Until next time, we're just going to say Nuff Said.
Nuff said.
Good.